This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Come on, come on. We call it the place to be. The place to be, yes. It's the place to be. Then I shall be.
It is contagious. It is the place to be, and we are live each and every Monday.
Do you actually need a camera for tout, or is it like part of the program?
Yeah, I like Big Dick myself.
I just remain to see in the place to be.
Do you listen at all when I speak on the show?
I'm not the one who thrives on whining about carriages that are 3 inches from my fucking car.
So there's too much for you and your big Cock of the Walk Knights of Columbus backpack.
When does it end,
to bring
JR?
the carriage back to the fucking thing. Then what do you want? What do you want?
When does it end?
You're making the poor guy making minimum wage while you're sitting there with our Mento going to the coffer. Party people in the place to be.
5 years. 5 years! We've been doing podcasts. And we have this. This is trash.
It's not Austin in L.A. It's not Cabana in Chicago. It's not Conrad down in Alabama. Place to Be Nation presents Scott Criscolo and JT Rosero. This is the Place to Be Podcast.
To do worse than Josh Richard.
Place to Be Nation, welcome to another great episode of the one and only Place to Be Podcast. I'm co-host Just Reserve, coming to you live here on this Monday evening inside the auxiliary PTBN Studios. And I say auxiliary because my basement's still a mess, but I am joined right on my side here by my PIC, Scott Criscolo, sitting right next to me, basically in my lap. Scott, how are you?
And those are usually the best episodes, as a matter of fact. Welcome, Place to Be Nation, to episode 512 of the longest-running episodic motherfucking gold standard. And I am looking down at the digs, and they're kind of a mess. Yeah. But going to look very impressive, though. I must say,
it is. It's gonna be a whole new world, like Aladdin and Jasmine discovered.
Exactly.
Once upon a time. So we're here tonight for this very special episode that we decided to do because you happened to be here. We didn't really time this, but you came in. You were supposed to come in this past weekend, but you had to work. So we said, "Oh, why don't you come in Sunday and hang out for a couple of days instead?" And we realized that today was actually the 8th anniversary. Well, I guess technically 7th anniversary, it's the 8th birthday. 8th birthday of the Place to Be podcast. It was on this night, February 11th, 2011, that we recorded the very first episode. And we thought since we're going to be here together anyway, hanging out, and we were cataloging tapes earlier, so we really went back to 2011. We thought it'd be cool just to take a few minutes, talk about the show, kind of level set kind of where we stand as Place to Be, as Scott and Justin overall. And then I'm going to have a very special chat with an old friend in a little bit as well. So kind of a lot of things we got going on. But what's kind of on your mind, Scott? I know we did a lot of reminiscing for 500 not that long ago, so we don't have to dive too deep. But anything jump out to you wanted to cover here?
I got to say that I don't think I've seen as many VHS tapes as I have today in a long time.
It's been a while.
My God, with about 600 or 700. Well, a lot of things have changed in many ways, both in terms of the show and of what's around us. I mean, wrestling has changed, sports has changed, the world has changed in many ways, but we keep on moving along. You know, you've had 2 kids. In fact, one of your kids came out in the middle of a show. Yeah. As a matter of fact, right. I believe it was 2 matches into the Backlash 04 Vintage Vault. Big Al came into the world. Mm-hmm. So we've always found a way to adapt to our surroundings. And it's amazing what podcasts have come and gone, both on our channel and elsewhere, and we keep trucking along. And it's a good testament. I mean, 511. That's a lot of episodes. You don't see many shows anywhere that going that far. You know.
No, and it's crazy because we were talking about it last night. We were reminiscing a bit and saying how that first year we did over 100 episodes, and we were doing, and really for the first few years, I think we figured it was about the first 3 years we were doing 2 a week, and at 2.5 hours or so. So that was a decent amount, a decent chunk of podcasting that we were doing. We were doing vaults, we were doing headlines, and mixing things up, doing live watches. And then when the Kevin Kelly show started, January of 14 main event started, we went to 3 every 2 weeks, and I think we kept that pace up for another year or so before finally, cutting back to 1 a week.
Right.
And then eventually now what we do is 2 a month. But we did last night kind of sit and plot our schedule out for the next few months through the rest of 1989 and the Vintage Vault. So we're going to be coming, periodically, maybe not every other week, maybe a little bit more frequently. We kind of plotted it out. So it'll be all over the place a bit, but we're going to still bring to you the same amount of content. And like you said, stuff has come and stuff has gone. I mentioned the Kevin Kelly show and the Kevin Kelly podcast, which came and
Kevin
gone.
Kelly has come and gone.
Multiple times. So, we've always thanked everyone for your support. And, it's not just 512 episodes of this, Scott. When you factor in Kevin Kelly, main events, the rewinds, Dangerous Alliance, Jeff Learns Wrestling, Wrestling Warzone, No Holds Barred, the GWE Project, and all the other stuff we've done on, we're well into the 1,000, over 1,000 episodes of things that we've recorded, all out of the genesis of this show that we've spawned. So it's been a lot of fun, obviously, doing all these different podcasts, the family we've built, the nation that's built, the fans. To me, that's been the highlight. And when you really think back to where we started in 2011, our goal was just, hey, hopefully some people listen and let's make them part of the show and just involve everyone. And, message board was the hub and hub again.
Yep.
So I thought maybe we'd just take a minute and kind of talk about where everything lies.
Right.
With the place to be. So you and I aren't going anywhere.
No.
We're going to keep this thing going. We're going to try and charge ahead and continue through this, deep dive of the 80s and into the 90s that we revisited after we got to, if anyone is newer, you and I made it all the way to 07 with our Vintage Vaults, and we decided it was time for a break from that era. We were getting, at the time, a little close, a little repetitive. So we really wanted to go back and deeper dive into some of the stuff we felt we didn't do full justice to the first time around. And I think those episodes have a charm to them, but we just didn't really, really dive deep. So this time around, of course, we're doing the MSGs and the Saturday Night events and really trying to add more depth and value. So that'll keep going. Many of you have reached out and noticed that PlayStation.com has been dormant for a couple weeks. That has nothing to do with the future of the site. That has more to do with tech. The WordPress module was down. So we've been working on that, trying to get things back up and running. Now, there are going to be some changes coming to PlayStation.com that you'll notice and we'll talk about in the coming weeks. But the site itself isn't going away. That said, we are trying to get a lot of discussion and facilitation at Bigelow34.proboards.com as our message board that was our home for many, many years. And we are trying to liven that back up, and we're putting a lot of our reviews back up there. A lot of the projects, the year that was 96 is there. The results from the GWE Tag Team Project are there. You can check that out, by the way. The results from 100 to 80 dropped today, and the rest will be out this week. So by Friday, we'll have the top 100 greatest WWE tag teams of all time. Will be out for everyone. So just want to kind of level set there. Before we move on to podcast stuff, did you have anything to add?
Well, I think that, and a lot of people have asked, and that's a good thing that for people to say, hey, I haven't seen anything posted on the site since January 23rd. At least that means people are still looking.
Right,
so that's a good thing.
It's been encouraging.
If people haven't thought anything, and then I think we'd be a little worried anyway. But well, it's funny because, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit later on. WrestleMania 35 is on the WrestleMania 35 is on the horizon, and of course we'll be at MetLife. We'll be getting together again en masse. We obviously the groups have been going the last few years. You've gone the last few years. My first trip back to Mania since 2013, and 2 years. In 2 years from the start of the show till then, we gained a pretty good following. If you remember, for those that follow the Facebook page, and we had that big picture with that huge groom. Yeah. It's funny that a lot of the guys in that picture we don't see anymore, and some have added it. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing how wonderful we've all grown as a family and talk wrestling and goof with each other and talk Blu-rays and things like that. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We'll get more into the details of WrestleMania. We do have some stuff to talk about for those that may be going to MetLife or any of the shows around. And
if you are going and you haven't reached out yet, let us know, because we'll catch you up on the activities, so who's doing what and when and where. But it's funny because episode 1, 8 years ago on this very night, we were talking WrestleMania 27.
Yes.
Where things are headed. Was The Rock going to be there? Was Sting going to be there? We were previewing the two 2111 shit that they had going on.
Oh yeah.
So it's funny to think of if you think of the years as Mania, as just how many we've been through. And for the first, we were doing headlines for a while, and then eventually it morphed into main event covering really. So, we kind of got away from talking current product stuff, you and I, on this show.
Right.
But we've still been here through a lot of Manias. And like
right.
you said, through a lot of those starting in 29, there's been trips. And especially since really 32 is where we started really, really digging in yearly and doing the tailgate with a large group.
Yep.
And we are looking forward to this year. So if you are going to be in the Jersey, New York area, make sure you hit us up, even if you don't join us for a lot of the festivities, just to say hi. There'll be a big representation there this year again, as always. So we're looking forward to that.
Rock. My God, The Rock's going to be there. Now we're like, oh, thank God The Rock's not going to be there.
The Rock again. Okay.
I mean, Sting.
He did show up.
He did not show up.
Well, he did eventually.
He did. Yeah, we would see Sting. 3.5 years later when he would show up at the 2014 Survivor Series. Just think about the roster real quick. In 8 years, I mean, think about it. The main event was Cena and Miz. Miz is close to being a main eventer, and Cena is in essence a part-timer at this point.
Well, think about the overall construction of like the product. Not even just the roster, but the type of roster, the Performance Center, NXT.
Right.
The difference in when you look at the end of 11 or the early 11, it was kind of the end of that wasted generation.
Right.
That it's kind of that missed generation that never really got the crack at the big time because of the veterans that hung on as long as they did, and then almost like the next level of guys were veterans too, like the Benoit Eddie group.
Right.
And you almost had this lost group of Morrison, Carlito, Masters, right. Kennedy. And when you look at kind of the young up and comers in 11 and 12. Some are still around today. Your Ziggler, Ryder, and like guys like that. But then others that just never materialize. And when you think of like the crop of guys now that come up versus then, it's mind-boggling. Like then, like a big debut call-up might have been like Jack Swagger. Right. Swagger was good.
Yeah.
But now your big call-up would be like a Matt Riddle or so.
Right.
It's like so the name. And when you look at how stocked, like even just NXT as alone could be a major promotion. I mean, it kind of is, but
right.
Like when you look at the talent that they got just laying there, and they brought another group today, it's like crazy to think of the construction of the program and the overall presentation of the type of wrestling that they show is nuts. What has evolved in those 7 years?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about when we started. 2011, there was no NXT. It was technically, I think, still FCW. I don't think they were officially NXT till 2012-ish.
Right. Well, it was when NXT the show ended.
Right. And
when then they kind of took over.
Yeah. And then you saw the guys like Seth Rollins and you saw Bray Wyatt, and you saw these guys that that were cutting their teeth at a time where the main roster did have that group. I mean, you were right. You're thinking about guys who lost opportunities. Morrison was red hot at that time in 2011, and then of course he got in trouble for throwing shade at Trish Stratus, which was a stupid thing to do. And then you got Carlito, who seemed to always get disrespected, even though he was always a solid worker. And the main event situation changed. Obviously, this was before the pipe bomb,
right,
and before my awesome cruise. But now. The roster has just become so athletic and so young that
well, not even young necessarily, but
young,
skilled.
Yeah, skilled, and definitely not a need to focus on. Like you and I had a discussion. It might have been because we were looking at some of our early episodes, and it says we got into a heated debate, which was of course not uncommon, about something, and I think it was about WrestleMania. And I think that's when you had said that WrestleMania was almost a festival,
right?
A week-long festival, and you didn't really count storylines into it per se. Right. I mean, you had your title matches, Rumble winners, etc., and but then you had to bring in the Steves and the Rocks and the Hogans, and because you had to bring the casual fan in. I feel that's changed now.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Austin since the 37-hour Mania at Arlington that you and Cowboy were at. Rock doesn't show up as much anymore.
No, I mean, and they're having a hard time fitting guys on the roster on the card because the roster's so big. Not
right.
as much because they're hogging the big spots for
correct
the big names.
Yep.
I mean, you'll still get Shane in there, you still get Undertaker, Triple H, but they're kind of woven in more than taking up
spots
match to get you.
Exactly.
It's an interesting evolution for sure.
I mean, there's no doubt that when you and I started, when we go back to 2011, I don't think either of us ever thought that AJ Styles would ever be here. We always used to say that Vince didn't like the the hillbilly accent and the lack of promo cutting and all that. And then that was the year I remember 2013 because that was the year that I was actually covering TNA for the board, and he was so crazy over, and then he beat Bubba Ray, or Bully Ray I should say, at Bound for Glory that year, and then he kind of faded, and then he spent the next couple of years kind of putzing around, and then he went to New Japan, etc. And of course he got here at the 2016 Rumble. So there's definitely been a change in the sense that the brain trust at WWE has kind of opened its arms to things that it wouldn't have 10 years ago. Of course, the boss is the boss. Vince is Vince, and he's not going to go anywhere. He'll probably be a cyborg and live forever. Of course, he's got a football league in 11 months to run. So there's definitely a change in the way that the company is handling their roster and how they're handling advancement. And not just WWE, JR, but if you look at, 8 years ago, Ring of Honor was red hot, and TNA was actually still doing pretty good in 2011. Fast forward, TNA is breathing somehow. ROH is kind of there, but they don't have the gravitas that they had even maybe 2 or 3 years ago because a lot of guys have left. And now, of course, we have All Elite.
And New Japan. New Japan's always been there, obviously,
right?
But it's become, with the more Americanization and the push and the relationship with Ring of Honor, and the ease of viewing versus what it was at the time. And think of that, even that has changed so much since 2011. I mean,
I know.
We were talking about it because we were still stockpiling tapes. We were recording 24/7.
Yes.
We were buying DVDs, and then in 2014, the viewing world changed.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, everything has become more at our fingertips, and that goes across the board. It's not just WWE; it's all the old territories and the classics, but also current New Japan and TNA classic material and everything else. It's like all of a sudden, indies are easy to see from around the world and around the country. So it's like more and more stuff, UK stuff. It's like is now at our fingertips. Whereas just 8 years ago, if you think even like 2012 or 13 when we were doing our live watches or our summer series where we're like watching random stuff,
yes,
we're still pulling DVDs and trying to dub and comps and everything else.
Yep. Well, you and I were working on your stuff today, and I'm looking at the bin right now from where we're sitting, 235 24/7 tapes. Now, what's funny is, and we have it cataloged, I mean, it's us, duh. There's still stuff that 24/7 did that's not on the network, which is fascinating. But I was even saying, and I said this earlier today, think how frustrating it is. Yes, I mean, you pretty much cornered the VHS market. I don't think anyone. I seriously do not think there's anybody that I know in my entire life that owns more tapes than you do.
No, we should have started a store. Landy may. I don't know how Landy must have something.
Yeah, he must have something. But
we should start a video store and try and bring everything old is new again.
Exactly, vintage rules.
We're gonna open up a video store.
Exactly. But think about back in the 80s and 90s when people were spending so much money on postage and stuff for like New Japan and All Japan, I would say, tape trading and stuff. Forget handing hey, I taped this ECW at 3 o'clock in the morning the other day. Oh, cool. These guys are sending off tapes of Murdoch and Vader and Stan Hansen and all this stuff, and guys you'd never heard of like Hashimoto and stuff like that. And now all of a sudden they have the New Japan World app, and all the stuff from the 70s, 80s, and 90s is right there for you to buy for $9.99 a month. No, it's crazy. It's amazing, right?
And that was just from when we started. I mean, that's to show that we've obviously been here a while, but also how quick things change. Like if you think of a 7-year period, because on one hand, like the presentation and overall product of Duty hasn't necessarily changed, like the look, but the depth and the construction, all that has. Right. But like it's still, the Titantron's still the same. This is still, like all that's still the same. When you think of the 7-year period from like WrestleMania 1 to WrestleMania 8.
Yeah.
Think of how much changed. So it's cool to think of those like 7 or 8 year chunks. You know what I mean? So it's like even WrestleMania 8 to WrestleMania 16. Like how much different the wrestling world was. So things move at different paces, and the roster turns over. Whereas nowadays, it's almost like guys hang around so much longer and it's so more overexposed. Like Dolph Ziggler, I mean, he first showed up with the Spirit Squad, or even before that, as the caddy for Chavo in 05. 14 years.
Yep.
If he debuted at WrestleMania 1, he would have been at WrestleMania 15.
Yeah.
Like, that's how long. Like, how many guys were at WrestleMania 1 and 15? Think,
and I mean,
that's probably it.
That's pretty much. I mean, what's funny is now also is like job security. I had said earlier that, and we had talked about this on a couple of our chats. All these options to go to All Elite and everything, and I think a lot of guys now are also looking for job security. Right. They think, if I go to WWE now, work a couple years, make some big money, and then they'll hire me as an agent, or I can go down to the Performance Center in Orlando and train future guys, or maybe they'll fly me to England and I could work for NXT UK. When I first saw that, I smiled because you and I had said, and by the way, look back on our catalog because we get very, very nostalgic. Go back to the catalog at PlaceToBeNation.com and or PlaceToBe.podbean.com and go back to, well, I guess it would be February 2014 because the night that the network launched, which was the night after the 2014 Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. I actually took isn't it crazy? I took the day off to...
and you were locked out for
I was locked out for like 9 hours. But I remember the very first thing I watched. Do you remember the very first thing you fired up? I do. It was the next vault you and I were doing. It was the 2001 Survivor Series.
I feel like I might have put on... I don't know. I know WrestleMania 1 was one of the earlier ones I put on. It had to be something that like I didn't have... easy access to. But I'm trying to even picture what was even there at the launch. The pay-per-views were all there.
The pay-per-views were all there. The house shows were all there. I think the Raws were all there. All their stuff was all there. Like the Nitros and all that didn't come for a few weeks. But I know that all the pay-per-views were there. The Raws and SmackDowns were there. And the house shows were there, or it was called Old School. But I remember the first thing I fired up was the 2001 Survivor Series because that was our next vault at the time. But you and I talked about that night, and we had a pretty good episode about the network and what to use it for. And we were saying, they should start doing, because the days of kayfabe were over, and even in the sense of getting news, people, because we have friends that live in the UK, and they're like, why can't WrestleMania be here? I'm like, because they're not going to do WrestleMania at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern time. That's just not the way it's going to work. It stinks. I feel bad, but now they can do things like NXT UK, and they can do these takeovers, and they do shows overseas. I mean, Saudi Arabia just was bad timing, but the premise was nice. But now they're doing the things that you and I had said they need to do to be more relevant and to be more global.
And lots and lots of content. But it's fitting too because it was 8 years ago today. We were talking about the Dodie channel. Yeah, as if because there were rumors at the time they would be starting a channel, and I don't think we ever pictured it to be this content,
treasure trove,
right? Just where you could just pull up anything you want from all this. Like I think we always pictured it as being a normal channel with this,
like ESPN Classic almost.
Right, we'll just rotate old stuff
and just tape the shit out of stuff like we did before.
Right. So
in essence,
it's crazy to I don't think we ever pictured it, and I think at the time, I'll give them credit because I think they were ahead of the curve. At the time, I think when people heard it, like, it's an app, like it's not an actual channel. Why they couldn't get a deal? Right. It was almost like an embarrassing thing. And now, like if you look at it, they were kind of forefront. Cutting edge. Everyone does it now. Everyone's got over the top with the on-demand library and everything else. It's just the way the world works now. So it's fitting. So I think it's cool. Just again, how much has changed and how much has stayed the same. And we mentioned the message board. Obviously, the podcast has expanded. We have really two great feeds: a Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed and Place to Be Nation Pop feed, all filled with great shows. So we appreciate anyone who subscribes to those on iTunes or rates and leaves some feedback for us. And just to check out the site once it's back up and running. Social media, we're all over the place there on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Yep. And like I said, we're going to keep chugging along. We've mapped out our goal is at least to get through the Saturday Main Event era, I guess, house show era.
The house show era,
92.
Yes. Yep.
And then we'll kind of reassess from there where we want to go. But yeah, so on that fateful night 8 years ago when I was crying into Skype, as you were on the other line trying to guide me through, we talked about different things. We talked about Utah Jazz had fired Jerry Sloan.
I know, right? And they've done nothing since.
that was the big story. Yeah. Well, they're one of the better teams, I guess.
No, I guess so. But they haven't won. They haven't gotten as far as they did with him.
We talked about that. We talked about the WWE channel. We talked about Sting. We also talked some Jersey Shore, which you really never ended up watching.
No, I watched it at times. I didn't hook onto it like you did, but and then they came back.
Yeah, they did. Just like the message board.
Just like the message board. Well, they were hot at the time because Snooki ended up going to WrestleMania 27 anyway. So, no, I had my favorites. I liked what's his name? Paulie. He's the Rhode Island DJ, right? Paulie. I liked him. And I mean, they've all some have grown up, some have not. Didn't Situation? Didn't he go to jail or didn't he get arrested or something?
He's not. Well, he's actually turned it around quite a bit. He just went to jail for tax evasion. His brother kind of fucked with his taxes, but he's actually come quite a ways.
Right.
Completely sober, and on the newer ones, he's almost like the voice of reason. It's quite the redemption story.
Yeah, because he was the asshole pretty much early on.
But so here's the deal tonight: is that we had not planned on doing this, then we planned on doing it.
Right.
You're battling a hell of a cold. So you've gutted through this 25 minutes.
I know.
But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. And when we pop back, we're going to be joined by one of the OGs of Place to Be Nation, Place to Be Podcast, one of the very first guests, who also is a Jersey Shore aficionado, diehard. And we're going to talk some Jersey Shore as a throwback from 8 years ago tonight when we did the same exact thing.
Yep.
So after the break, we'll do that, and then we'll wrap things up and kind of talk about where we're headed next. And stay tuned, because we are going to also announce our next big project for this year.
Yes. Because?
Yes, there were times I'm sure you knew when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Place to Be Nation's Justin Rosero and Chad Campbell here, and we want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlayStation.com, and we now offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the PlayStation Wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the Place to Be Podcast, Main Event, Survey Says, Wrestling Warzone, a Monday Night Wars podcast retrospective, No Holds Barred, Jeff Learns Wrestling, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction shows. On top of that, we're also dipping into the vault, re-releasing the entire catalog of where the big boys play for your enjoyment. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver special network pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is loaded with great content, offering such tremendous shows covering the land of pop culture, such as Geek and Sassy, Talkin' Pop, the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, Sunday Groove, PTBN Play, Freak Out Drive-In, Songs with Friends, Looking Forward, Looking Back, and Lucha Undead, as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans with the hard-traveling fanboys, Sellers Points, Conversation Comics, DC Post-Crisis Management, Marvel Age, and Marvel Age Masterclass, plus weekly pod blasts that cover the gamut of comic topics. The feed is also filled with insightful sports content, including the NBA team, This Week in the NFL, and more.
And you can find all these current shows, plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others available at PlayStation.com. We cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, in-depth stretch projects, and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlayStation.com/Amazon while doing your online shopping. And download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlayStation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is Gary Michael Capetta, and this is the Place to Be Podcast with Scott Riscola and Justin Rosero.
Get crazy, get wild, let's party, get loud. If you wanna have fun and do something, if you wanna have fun and do something, get crazy, get wild, let's party, get loud. If you wanna have fun and do something.
All right, everyone, welcome back from break. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the beginning. Scott, like I said, is feeling a little under the weather, so he's stepped out for the moment. I'm sick of him breathing his germs on me, and he doesn't have much to add in this next segment anyway. But who does have something to add is one of the originals of the Place to Be family. She was one of our very first guests way back in episode 6. She was a friend of mine from college. and still a friend today. She, of course, is a wonderful food. Leeanne Griffin. I'm going to let you explain exactly what you are, because I feel like it changes every time we talk. But the one and only wonderful Leeanne Griffin, Jersey Shore enthusiast and good close friend of the family. Leeanne, what are you exactly doing these days?
I like the Jersey Shore enthusiast.
Add that to all your social media, please.
I wish I could make money doing that.
Right?
No, but these days I'm writing about food and dining in Connecticut for the Hartford Courant.
Excellent. And so you've really come like full circle. 'Cause I feel like when we first started, I think you were still doing newspaper stuff, and then you did your own blog that you were running. We talked about that. So I feel like every time you come on, you're kind of moving through this career circle.
Yeah, I did. I started there going on 13 years ago now, which is crazy. And I started there on their website.
Yep.
Doing mostly news production, and then part of my career path there was I moved more into features. So we was doing features, entertainment, and the food thing was always something I enjoyed. And I used to volunteer to do it, on a freelance basis, even when I was still there full time, because news was my priority. And then I left. I freelanced for going on 5 years, and then they were in a position to hire me back full time to do the food thing full time. So I've now been doing that full time for 5 years.
Jeez. Already, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it goes crazy.
Seems like just yesterday I was asking how you didn't get fat eating all that food, and here we are.
Oh, because I spend my nights at the gym. So.
Well, you have to offset it.
You do.
It was funny timing because Scott and I actually got the Frank Pepe's from Warwick tonight, so I thought it'd be funny timing since you're, of course, as a Connecticut food correspondent, well versed in the ways of Mr. Pepe.
Oh, that's my favorite pizza here. Honestly, there's a lot of pizza here, but they have a location in Manchester, which is about half an hour from my house. So to have that and not have to go to New Haven is great.
Yeah, it's been nice here. We don't get it too often, like just enough. I'm afraid I don't know how they're doing it, because whenever I go in there, and even Scott said like it wasn't that busy in there. Now, granted, he went in around 4:30, so pre-dinner. But I'm curious like how much maybe takeout they do versus like walk in, just sit and eat.
Yeah.
So.
That's a good question.
Yeah, so hopefully they last. It's a nice addition to the area.
Yeah.
All right, so food, yes, great. But even better is, of course, and I guess more food involved here when you consider some of the characters. Our favorite show, Leeanne, is the Jersey Shore. You've been on multiple times to discuss this thing. And amazingly enough, the show is now back. We thought it was dead. They were teasing reunions here and there, but it never really seemed like something that they'd probably come back to, especially the crew had kind of moved on, maybe. But it didn't seem like anything we'd actually get back to. And then the beacon of light shone in last April when the first episode of Jersey Shore Family Vacation aired. And at the time, it seemed like it was just going to be like a limited series, like, okay, they're going on vacation, and it's like a reunion. And then the second season, which aired from August to December, to me, that felt like it was just going to chronicle their lives. Like it just never ended.
Yeah.
How excited were you, and what were your thoughts when you found out it was coming back, and kind of where it's gone from there?
I was a little surprised. Like you said, they'd all moved on. Some of them had gotten married. At least 3 of them had kids, and one of them had a kid on the way in the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And you would think, these kids have moved on. They're in their 30s. They're actually parents. They've got adult responsibilities. But for some reason, I was surprised that they just kind of fell back into the personas that we knew. And I don't think that was a bad thing. I think it was like they needed that break from adulthood to some extent. And I was surprised at how well it kind of flowed together and how quickly they seemed to get back into that atmosphere. It's
almost like it's who they really are, Leeanne.
I think so. But I think I expected...
Right.
I don't know. I think maybe I expected like the moms not be able to hang, but I really think they did need that break from their day-to-day lives, because they went right back into it, going hard.
I almost like they're
on
cyborgs,
the booze and
really.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I don't even have kids, and I can't I can't drink like that. So, it's funny that you reached out to do this, and I had been rewatching it on my cable app. And realizing, how strong those bonds are between all of them. Mm-hmm. Like they clearly had gone their own way and gotten married, built houses. Paulie's still DJing all over the place, but they really seem to come back together like those bonds were unbreakable. their friendship, and I was pretty amazed by that.
And I think there's so much of it that we probably just haven't seen with them. Like, they reference it here and there, and we saw some of it, like, in that, which I thought was my favorite episode so far, was the Thanksgiving one.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was really cool, like, a lot of behind the scenes and kind of shit we've never seen. Like, and it kind of makes you realize just how much was going on off camera, like, between seasons with them. And I think they grew up in this a lot together, like... And I think that's where the bonds came from, like dealing with the sudden celebrity and all the bullshit, and all of a sudden you're in a public spotlight, and you're kind of drunken messes. It's like they all kind of came through it together, and I think that even just as much as because they're only living together for like 3 weeks at a time. So I think it's all that other stuff that ends up being part of it. And I also think a big part of it, of course, is Ron and Sam, like all the shit they went through, like kind of brings everyone together. So it's interesting. What's also interesting too is when they would show clips of like the early seasons, you almost forget what they looked like because you're so used to seeing them
they look
now.
entirely.
Oh my god, it's like crazy. Like even Situation, like when he was like skinny and strung out, like you didn't realize it at the time, but you see him now where he's just kind of fat and healthy. That what a washout he was in those early seasons, and just how crappy he looked. And then
he's a different person now.
Oh yeah. We're going to talk about Mike.
Okay,
he's definitely like the big redemption story. This whole
thing.
I
have lots to say about new Mike.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into new Mike. Also new lips. So that's what I want to talk about because it took me like half a season to get used to JWoww and Snooki's new look.
Yeah. I didn't Pauly say something like that when they first got to Miami.
Oh yeah, he's
like,
made
there's
a lot
some new
of
faces in the house.
Yeah.
Actually, literally new faces in the house.
And I'm glad he did because it was like an icebreaker. Like I'm like, all right, yes, they all got fucking surgery. Call it out. And Paulie's like perfect.
Yeah.
He's almost like a real life Kramer where he can just kind of say whatever he wants.
He's so much fun.
He's the best.
I just his personality was the same. Vinny's personality was the same. Snooki's personality. It was. You think you'd want your favorite show to get rebooted, and it does, and maybe it does, and it's not great, or you see it, and it's just the magic isn't there anymore. There's something about them that they were able to do it again 10 years later, and still have it be as entertaining as it was.
It's incredible. And Paulie's like kind of like the Derek Jeter of this whole thing, where like he somehow built himself into like this perfect role model of what people in this genre should be like super quiet personal life. Rarely in the tabloids. He's not the guy that he doesn't. Only once or twice has he really gotten drunk, and it was really like season one. To me, it clicked for him like in season one when he had that one episode where he just went like off the fucking deep end, like screaming at everyone. And then I think he realized like what this could be for his career, and he just became like no drama, no trouble, fun loving Paulie, and like he kept the kid to himself. Like everything is like he really runs a tight ship. And everyone loves him. No one hates Paulie. You never hear anyone say anything bad about Paulie. He really, it was... I think they're all brilliant in their own way with the way they've handled this shit. But, he is, super brilliant. I mean, he just built this impeccable brand around himself. And is a millionaire doing what he loves to do and just tour around the country, partying and DJing.
Yeah, that was smart. And, like you said, he came into the show with the DJ career already pretty established. So... to see, that's what I want to do with my life, and to see how the celebrity might boost that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, the whole thing is, the whole story's crazy when you think about where it all started and where they all came from. And I will say that I've enjoyed this run, incredibly so. I wasn't sure what to expect. Like you said, sometimes you want that reboot and it ends up just disappointing you. You don't know what it's going to be. But like you've mentioned a few times now, they really bought all back in. And I think one of the most brilliant moves that the creators of the show did was back in season 2. Do you know what that is?
Was that the Miami season?
Yeah, just in general, season 2. Do you know what their production-wise, what I thought their brilliant move was?
No, what was that?
Not getting a new cast. Because shows like this always tend to just real world, road, every season is a new group. And they stayed away from that, which I thought at the time was smart, and I think it's even smarter now, because what would have happened to me is you see what that, I haven't watched this stupid Floribama show, but you can see it in the preview, the promo, and shows since then, everyone's just going to try and replicate what these guys did to make this show work. And I think you were only ever going to get as authentic as possible in this scenario with this crew staying and growing. And I think they ended up creating this magical world where these people now are still going. I don't think the show has nearly the same success if they tried different casts every year.
Absolutely not. No, I think it's like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
You captured these people, those personalities in combination at that moment in time. And the first season was dynamite. And subsequent seasons, even though, they brought in Dina fit in. I liked Dina from the start.
Yep.
One thing I did not really love was the fact that they kept bringing back Angelina for the most recent episodes. And it really took until the very end of, what's the season 2, that they were even really accepting her with open arms.
But I think she was needed.
I don't really buy it.
Right.
That they all like her.
Yeah, I think they actually do like her, and they were faking and not liking her, to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. But I don't know. I just felt like she had her chance the first season.
And the second season.
Yes, that's right. And I don't know. And when she would come in, and she would just kind of come in hot, like they said, and fight. And
yeah, but see, I feel like some of that was like
faked. No,
not even faked, but like wasn't on her. Like it's kind of the why am I not thinking of the word right now? Come on, you're a journalist. Like not predetermined. No, what's it called? Like
storyline.
No. Like in real life, like where it's almost like you expect to be some way and then it ends up happening because you assumed it was going to happen. Like, oh, I'm going to suck at this job, and I sucked at it. It was like
like self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Kind of thing, yeah.
So it almost becomes that way because I feel like she actually wasn't bad some of the times, and like they would all of a sudden kept saying it, and then she starts saying it because she's like so beaten down and like just wants to be accepted so badly. Like I don't think she actually came in hot that time, but they kept fucking saying it, and then she just started saying it. Like, why are you admitting it? Like you didn't do anything. Like she just showed up.
Yeah.
And like, Angelina's coming in hot, and she kept saying, I'm like, all you're doing is just associating yourself with this, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where all she really wants to do is just like she realized she fucked up. She just wants to be friends and be famous and with the rest of them and just hang out. And like she just keeps, it's like Larry David, in Curb. She just can't get out of her own way,
Yeah, I was watching the episode the other day where they went back to the shore house for the one night or 2 nights.
Yeah.
And Snooki was walking around and she was saying, oh, here's this memory and here's this thing. Oh, you don't know this, Angelina. You don't know this, Angelina. I thought to myself, okay, so she left, halfway through season 2?
Right.
And then they went through 4 more full seasons without her, 5?
Yep.
And just think about the bonds that they must have formed and all the memories that they have that she's not a part of. And I don't know. I think I got so accustomed to that core group with Dina that I for some reason didn't feel like there was any room for her to move back into the circle.
Let me ask you this then. What do you think of Dina and Angelina group versus Sammy and Dina? So like say Dina comes back after the baby, because they're doing another fucking season because they have to if the situation gets out of jail and everything. So they got to do his wedding, right? Have they gotten married yet?
Yeah,
okay.
November, I think.
Yeah, so we got to see that, right? They haven't showed that yet. So we're going to get the wedding stuff. And then him getting out of jail, full redemption. So we're going to get more. So I'm assuming Dina's going to be back in this pretty much full. So is Dina and Angelina like the group then? So now we're back to 4 and 4. Like, have you missed Sammy at all?
I think it was weird at first. They were really kind of ragging on her for not going. They did that whole thing with the plastic doll or the robot doll. That was so creepy.
Yeah, that was really creepy.
And then they kind of forgot about it. It seemed like, I don't know that I've missed her, and I think it's because I realized what a powder keg it would have been to have her in the house with Ron.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing what Ron was going through with the baby mama, it was best for Sammy not to be there.
She must have known too, because they're way more dialed into each other than they let on the show. So she has to have known like that he was a mess. What was going on with the bit? Like, I think she was really smart to just stay the fuck away from from the stuff. And she's probably really moved on and just didn't want to get dragged back into it, is my guess.
No, I don't blame her.
Yeah, you don't hear much from her.
No, and I think from what we see on social media that she's kind of living her own quiet life, and she's got a long-term boyfriend, and they seem very happy. And why would you do anything to disrupt that?
Right.
Maybe she's just over the fame of it, and I don't know. So. It seemed. I was thinking about it yesterday. It seemed like when they announced that they were all coming back and that Sam wasn't, it seemed like she came up in every interview. They would sort of not badmouth her, but throw some shade that she wasn't coming. And I just thought to myself, let it go.
Right, leave her alone.
Like,
I'm sure they were prodded.
Yeah, she's chosen this life for herself, and I'm guessing there was some trauma in that relationship with Ron, and why would you want to relive that?
No, it's like an addict, too. I mean, why put yourself... She's trying to avoid putting herself back in the situation that's going to lead to the worst possible outcome for her life.
I think she was smart.
And I think maybe they all really think that she was probably a bigger part of the issue than Ronnie, because they all seem to really love Ronnie. So I do wonder if that's part of it, too, if they all kind of pick sides, and that's why they took shots at her, and that's why she didn't want to come back, because she felt like she was always looked at. And I think she was a lot of the time. It always seemed like very rarely. But she kind of brought a lot of it on herself, too, if you watch back some of that stuff. What I do love is the legacy of the letter, of the note, because that's led to some... There was one... I wish I'd write these jokes out. There's been some real... Paulie had so many one-liners in this season that I couldn't even keep track. But he had one really good one about leaving a note that I was dying when he said it.
Yes. Oh, no, I wish I remember this context, too.
It was so funny. That one and...
maybe you should have left a note.
When he does... I kept saying, like, whenever the smaller groups, he would do, like, the 3 initials. And it was him, Mike, and who's the S that would have been? Snooki? Was it him, Mike, and Snooki? It was PMS.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, it's our time of the month. I was fucking dying when he fucking said it. It was like this throwaway line they did as they went to commercial. And he's like, PMS, it's our time of the month.
He's amazing.
Oh, he's so quick.
Yeah. I think that's why I like his personality is so fun. He's just a generally positive person.
Yes, very.
And you can tell he doesn't like the drama, and you can tell he just wants to be goofy all the time, and he loves his people. And I don't know. I always liked him. I always thought he was kind of like the comic foil. Mm-hmm. But he was
now he's like the moral compass.
Amazing. Yeah, and I did find, I don't know if you wanted to get into Ron and all of his.
Yeah.
But I have been really surprised at how well they handle real life issues. Mm-hmm. And how I watched a little bit of the season, one of the episodes when, Ron is dealing with some shit, obviously.
Yeah.
But Paulie has been through some of the custody stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying, they're looking at it as parents and adults in their mid to late 30s and saying, you need to get a lawyer. You need to get all of this documented. And it was very, very heavy. But I was pretty stunned at the fact that they were able to handle that real world stuff.
Yeah.
So seemingly well on camera, and to not freak out and to not handle it immaturely, but to say, this is a real life thing here. You've got a baby. You don't want anything. You don't want that baby to be in harm's way. And part of me thought maybe none of this should have been on camera.
Right.
Because it is a real life situation, but
maybe it's also helping. Because they're starting to get publicly ridiculed for everything.
Yeah.
But the one thing
maybe someone sees that situation and says, oh, maybe this is my own situation.
One thing that bugs me, and I can't tell if it's just them or the editing and when it's not seeing certain things, is how quick, they're all love Ron, they're all defending Ron, and all he does is smile, and they're like, oh, Ron's cheating. It's they keep saying it, and it's like you on his side or not? It's like he can't do anything. Here goes Ron again, and he's literally doing. And then they cut to him, and he's just dancing with other guys. It's like he's not doing anything, and they're like, "Oh, Ron, I can't believe Ron did this." And they're really egging it on, "Oh, he cheated. You got to tell her, he didn't do anything. You know what I mean? And they're putting it in his head. But I don't know if we're just not seeing stuff that he's doing, and they're really talking about it, or if it's just that they're all super drama queens and have to, push everything. When they had Vinny have to call the girlfriend. It's like,
oh yeah,
some of the stuff is okay, come on, it's do we have to self-report to this level at this point? Because they just keep egging on, egging on and egging on. Oh, they're, it's mainly Snooki and Jenny are just over the top with the, really just guilting Ronnie into about the cheating when I think half the time he just wasn't doing anything wrong, and half the time he's not even with her. That's the other thing too. They keep saying go leave her, and then he'd go be single Ron, and they'd be like, oh, single Ron is here. Well, you just fucking egged him on to break up with her and go out and be single Ron, and then you're getting all fucking worried when he's hooking up with chicks. It's you basically fucking told him to, Well,
no, they would tell him every other day, break up with her. Yeah. You can't be with her. This is dangerous. And then you're right. Oh, you're cheating with so and so. Yeah.
So
that got a little scary after a while.
Oh, very scary. The one where she comes in the Vegas hotel room is like,
oh yeah,
that's scary fucking shit.
Yeah, and then they kind of broke the fourth wall at that point, didn't they?
Oh yeah, for sure. They did that a lot in this one. Where like the one where Ronnie is like talking to the producer or whatever,
Yes,
like,
yeah. And there was one point where they were calling the cops for a wellness check on the house, and I just thought, damn.
Yeah. No,
like I didn't think this is how dark it would be 10 years later, but.
Well, I mean, I probably did. But you knew it was probably not headed. At least they're all alive.
Yeah, or like when Dina had the gender reveal party at her house, and he showed up and surprised her, but he was still banged up from when she dragged him in the car.
The editing in that's all fucked up too. That episode, like they make it like he's not there for a lot of it, and then you see shots from like earlier, and he's in the background. It's like and then it's all like the editing's all over the place. Yeah, they're like, oh, Ronnie. Yeah, they made it like he came late, and then they're like doing the highlights, and they're doing like I forget. There's one part they're doing something, and like he's in the background. It's like, oh, well, I guess he wasn't that late. Like he was there for this. They were making it like he hadn't come yet. It was just
okay,
little stuff like that. I mean, nothing major, but no, they've obviously been through a lot, and that's why I thought the season was unique because it just kind of followed their lives versus just like, all right, we're just going to get together for 3 weeks, and that's going to be it, and then we're going to move on, which I thought was kind of cool and that's what I'm kind of hoping the show goes, that they just pop in for 6 weeks at a time and or whatever, 10 weeks at a time, visit and record and then out, and just like we got 2 or 3 of those a year, like I'd be more than fucking pleased. Like it'd be awesome if we just visited with these people for 2 months, 2 or 3 times a year, forever. Never ending.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, just never ending. Like it's gonna keep going, right? I mean, it has to.
I would think so. I think it's had success.
Right. Clearly, it's done very well. Or else they wouldn't have done it again. I mean, they're getting, and they didn't. They dropped a little toward the end of season 2. Like they peaked in the first one early, but then they were still up around 2 million viewers for episode 10. Season 2 started at 1.3 and ended at 1.17. So they saw a drop over the course, but it was a long season. I mean, it was like 16 episodes, which is pretty long for them. Plus the special.
It is. Yeah.
It did feel like it was never ending. 17 actually, plus the Thanksgiving special. So hopefully it keeps going. I mean, that's still a pretty good number, I think, for cable TV these days, over 1 million. All right, so
and they didn't really wrap it, right? They didn't make it sound like, oh, this is the end.
Oh no, definitely.
They left the door open for them to show.
Yeah, they have to show the wedding, and they have to show him going to jail and coming out. I mean, that's it's on a fucking platter for them. like they have to do it, and we still kind of unresolved with Angelina too. With the the other guy,
the fiance or whatever.
Yeah. The cuck. All right, so so the one thing we haven't talked about, and you alluded to it, and we're going to make this our final topic here of our discussion because it's worthwhile as the main event, and that is the Situation's redemption story. Of course,
I love him now.
Oh, he was such a douche in those first original seasons, and what I think has been really impressive, and I mean, I know addicts. I'm sure you know addicts. Like to be in that situation is not easy for them. And he has been in the situation. I mean, they have dragged him to Vegas, to Miami, to the Jersey Shore, like to all these old haunts. And everyone's drinking around him. And all he does is sit and eat and, pontificate and bust balls and just roll with the punches. And God bless him. And you can even see the change from the beginning of Family Vacation till the end, because in the beginning there was still a lot of the tension with like Ronnie and the ball busting, and by the end you can tell I think they all start to really fully buy into the new Mike and okay, I think he's here to stay, and he's a good guy and he loves everyone, and so they really all come around on him.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm wondering too if they started to realize the severity of what he was facing.
Right, that too.
And then realizing, oh man, he really does have to go to prison. He really does have to serve his time for what he did. And
quick. I thought of a great Paulie line, by the way, before you continue.
What's that?
The first episode when they go to the house and they pick the rooms and Mike's not there yet and he gets the shitty room and Paulie goes, oh, that's what happens when you don't pay your taxes.
No. Anyway. And there were a couple of times they did razz him like that, and it was after the first season where he got better. He seemed a little more sensitive to it, but in a couple of things they had said to him later on, I think in the Jersey part where he would laugh. He'd laugh as hard as the rest of them. Right. And by the end, I think he knew they were doing it. I mean, I think he had to come along from like realizing that it's coming from a place of love and not from, hate. And I think there was probably some hate early when you get the, him and Ron battling back and forth. But I think he finally has realized by this point, like, okay, they all love you. Like, they're just busting your balls. Everyone's busting balls, and own it, and you'll be much better off. But good. I'm sorry I interrupted you. I thought of that line. No, that's okay.
I forget it.
I don't remember what we're talking about. We're talking about just Mike and the redemption arc.
Yeah, your thoughts on it,
I think, so before, I think I even told you this, a couple years ago before this came back, I listened to a podcast with him and Lauren, or Lawrence. And I listened to him talk about what he'd been through and how he was sober. And she was on the podcast with him, and just the way he spoke about her, to her, and listening to her and a little bit about what she was about. And she seemed like she had her stuff together. And they were just trying to make their way with him in his new, him sober, him dealing with his demons of the past. And I was just so impressed by it that I wasn't 100% surprised when he came back as new Mike. And I thought, wow, this is real. This is legit. He has completely turned his life around. And just the way he would even talk about how much he loved her on the show and how much he couldn't wait to get engaged and married and have kids. And I just thought to myself, is it possible that he did such a 180? But it really, and then you'd see him with her, and he kind of just like radiates how happy they are and how ready they are to live the rest of their lives. So I don't know. It was really impressive.
Well, and I think it makes you realize how fucked up he was through all those other seasons, because I think this is just who he is. So I don't he's done a 180 lifestyle, but the nice thing is it's not like he's had to change his ways. Like I think or change his personality. Like I think this is probably always him. It's just he was so pilled and drunked up like all those other seasons that he was just depressed in just in a manic state like through all those episodes. And it's amazing he made it through. And you watch a lot of these, and you just knowing the show, like you kind of just stay hopeful that like you're not going to get the one where they find him with the bottle or whatever, yes, because he is it's such a great redemption, and him and her, it seems like obviously they're perfect for each other, and they really figured it out. And like you said, I thought if you did want to end the show, like say you wanted to end at some point, the one where he proposes to her probably would have been like a perfect ending if you wanted it to not go on, because it was almost like the full arc of him and how far he's come with them all rallying around him to make this plan go perfectly, and his redemption story comes to an end with proposing to this woman who's helped save his life and helped him clean up. And I'm glad it's not ending, but that was almost like a perfect arc for him. Like, okay, we have this great story, this great episode, the whole family comes together, and we have this unbelievable proposal, and everything done, goes off so well. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, she seems like a wonderful person. And I think you're right. I think that probably was at his core, he's a good guy. And he just got in way over his head with the fame and the money and whatever substance abuse problem. I'm not sure, did he have it before or after the show, or?
I don't know if it was before or during Red Star. I mean, he must have had abuse problems right before. He kind of comes in that way. Like it's not really. It doesn't really ramp up. It's not like he's meek and humble and then he fires up. I mean, he's pretty much out of the gate kind of a douche, which I'm guessing was what got him on the show. So I'm guessing he had lingering issues coming into this thing.
Probably.
But I mean, when you look back at it and some of the way when they would show the clips, like especially in that Thanksgiving episode, it makes you realize. I mean, he was just probably gone like every episode of those original seasons, like just completely in the tank. I mean, when you see the clips and when you think about it in hindsight, and if you were to go back and watch, I think you realize just how out of it he was.
Yeah, especially I was thinking that he made that podcast I listened to. He made some reference to Italy.
Yep.
How I think he might have been going through withdrawal to some extent in Italy. I think it was because he couldn't get his hands on what he probably could when he was in America. And I'm guessing that big fight with him and Ronnie, where he kind of smashed his head against the wall, I'm guessing that was
part of that. Yeah.
Part of that. Wasn't there some episode when they're back in Jersey where he came and they had to like blur out his crotch area because I think his pants were sagging so low and he didn't even realize it? Remember that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was really, I'm sure there was way more that we didn't know, but I remember that. I remember thinking, it's middle of the afternoon. What is he doing? Like,
right.
with his pants unbuttoned like that. And I just thought, it didn't make sense at the time, but now it's like, wow, he was probably fucked up for a large portion of the later seasons.
Oh, for sure, if not all. I mean, honestly, if not all. I mean, so anyway, to me, that's been the highlight. Them coming back just to redeem him as a person has been, like, worth it. One last topic we'll squeeze in here. Vinny and Angelina. Like, I know you're not the biggest Angelina fan, but obviously I do think it's a little bit a little much. But I think they needed the through line to get them through the season, and that's what it was. But I also do think there's something there. Like, I do think he actually likes her. And I do think he just, for his image, and knows, like, deep down she's a fucking mess. But I do think he really likes her, and I think she's, like, super in love with him. So I'm curious if they're going to end up together or not. But that was obviously the running, prevailing, story throughout the second season.
I don't know. It just, to me, it just didn't sit right. Has she been harboring feelings this whole time? Didn't they hook up in Miami?
Yeah, Miami.
The first season.
Yep.
Well, the first second round in Miami. Yeah. Yes. But then when she came back and she said that she's got all this information on him, that they went to high school together and they grew up a year. They grew up what, like a mile and a half from each other in Staten Island. And my thought was, is there a history we don't know about? Is there a history? Maybe there's a history that he is trying to keep quiet, or he tried to play it off like he didn't know her when she was cast, right?
Right. And maybe he was told to like, for the
storyline.
Like, maybe that would have came out eventually if she stayed around. You know what I mean?
Like, how big is Staten Island? I'm not that familiar with it.
Yeah,
but
I don't think it's very big. There's a good chance they knew each other.
Well, I'm thinking if you grew up a mile and a half from each other and you went to the same high school,
right?
My high school wasn't huge, so I knew people's names and faces.
So it's got, as of 2017, it had 479,000 people. It's the least populated of the boroughs with the third largest in land area, 58.5 square miles. So it's not a very big area at all. And,
is there one high school?
Geez, now you're getting deep. I'd have to look.
I don't even know. Did they go to public high school? Did they go to Catholic
hang on,
high
let me go to the library quick. I'll be back. I'll go check it out. Let's see. List of high schools in New York City is a separate page. Oh, actually, hang on. Public schools. 1, 2, 3. No, there's a decent amount.
All right, so he may or may not.
Maybe a private too. There's some Catholic ones. He probably went to Catholic high school, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah.
This Wagner College is there for us. There's an Islamic school. So yeah. Look, they probably didn't know each other. If she's saying it. In these situations, I generally found that she's probably the least likely to be lying of the two of them. She's got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
She's probably spouting the truth, and he's the one denying it. So I'm guessing she's probably accurate in what she's saying. Why would she make up that they knew each other? Even if she's kind of a habitual liar, there's probably some level of truth there.
Because that's pretty easily fact-checked, too.
Correct.
Yeah, so...
I do feel bad for the boyfriend. He does seem like even though he kind of seems like a Slavinsky and a goof, he at least seems like a bit of a nice guy. So I do feel bad that she's basically just cocking him hard on TV and willing to bang Vinny. Like, she would drop him for Vinny, like in a fucking heartbeat.
Apparently they're still together, because after I was watching this episode, I went back and looked on their Instagram, and he's got something in his bio like, can't wait to marry my best friend. And I'm thinking, unless you're all acting.
Right.
Like, what is attractive to you about any of that? So I don't know if I buy their relationship together, if they're just kind of playing for
the camera,
the storyline, her whatever money she makes on the show. I don't know.
Or he just maybe is honestly. I mean, and you don't know what she's like off of there. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure she's not too far removed, but there may be times when they're alone and they're fine. You know how it is. Like you kind of get to that point and then it's like you're in, regardless. And maybe, so. It wouldn't shock me if it was like she's his first or something. Who the hell knows? Like there's a million possibilities. Maybe he loved her since high school or something. There's so many different reasons why he would be with the Staten Island dump or ferry, depending on the day.
All right, so Polly in Vegas when she showed up. And she was sleeping in his bed, and he came back and found out she was there and called the front desk. and told them to remove like the bed and the mattress because of Staten Island dumps happened. It's like that. It was just like, and it went on for so long. It was just this extended joke.
She is the prank king.
I'm not a fan of her. I really am not. And I shouldn't.
But you need a foil.
Laugh at someone's misfortune like that. But the shtick went on for like 5 minutes.
But you do need the foil because with Mike not being a prick anymore, and Ronnie has his issues, but it's not with any of them. Like they're all fine, you know. So it's like Jen is kind of the one antagonist, but she's not even on all the time. So it's like, all right, you need someone in the group to be the punching bag. You know, it's like so. That's just her role at this point. That's what it is. With no Ron and Sam drama, it's just like, what else is there? Like, they need something. So, and I'm curious, too, if they do a season, what we'll see for JWoww and Roger. Like, there's going to be some stuff there. Because they kind of hinted at it toward the end of season 2.
Yeah. That seems deep and scary. Mm-hmm. And kind of on the same level as Jen and Ron.
Right. And they haven't shied from that, so.
Yeah, and I there's been police involved. There's obviously lawyers involved. There's accusations going back and forth. There's 2 kids involved. Anytime there's a kid or 2 involved, it's just it's a whole other level of bad when it's in the public like that. Because your kids are gonna be able to look that up and see that someday.
Oh yeah, easily. What the hell, you know?
Yeah.
Jesus, smash on the TV.
I don't know. And I don't really know because. I admit that I have followed Roger on social media and what he portrays as a really loving dad.
Right.
And to hear, I'm sure he loves the kids.
You can be a great dad and a dog shit husband. I mean, it's, it's easy. It's easy to do. Try not speaking for spirits, but it's easy to do to be you can love your kids and have issues with your spouse. So I'm guessing that's somewhere there. I will say this, though. I was happy we got a couple of fights because you need the fights in there. So I was glad that big brawl toward the end at the nice restaurant came, where they're all thrown down. Like, because we haven't had a ton of that, and like that was such a staple of the early Shore. Was all
Angelina
of the fighting.
Was just I really would love to know more about because she had some backstory with the girl she was fighting.
Yeah.
She said this girl hates me because whatever, but I mean that was a brawl. You don't do that with someone you don't really have
issue with,
deep-seated issue with.
I'm guessing part of it too was her trying to just be like in with the group,
Yeah, and to have that camera time.
Yeah,
but I mean, it did seem like,
or just trying to show her worth that she's one of the crew, that she loves the group, and she's willing to fight for them or whatever. I mean, like I think something along those lines, maybe.
My favorite line of that whole thing was when Jenny did she throw water at the girl?
Yeah.
Or something, and she goes, "You look like a wet dog." And it was just the most perfect.
God, I go back and forth with Jenny so much. Like, I don't know if I like her, if I hate her. Like, I don't know where I'm at with her at this point. Like, she's such a shit stirrer, and now she's not even like the drunk crazy girl anymore. So she's almost just like. She's almost like an annoying Twitter person. like actually, like it feels like a lot like that, and it's kind of frustrating to me. I don't know.
We did get some good moments out of her.
Yeah, we need single Jenny just going fucking crazy. That's what we need.
Yeah, there was that one, and then when they went to a wine bar and they were trying to be classy,
right?
And she had eaten too much, and that was when the guy called Dina fat.
Yes.
And she went back in and called him a piece of shit to his face or something.
Right.
And then she came out. Yeah, and she was like, "He's lucky I'm stuffed full of cheese and wearing Louboutins," or something like that. That's the Jenny I love. I love really fierce, loyal friend Jenny.
Right. We need more of that instead of
she will beat the shit out of you if you even look at her friend sideways.
Right.
That's the Jenny I love.
We need more of that. We need less of like mom Jenny.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate Mom Jenny, but we need less of it at this point.
I like aggressive Jenny.
Yes. Angry drunk. Looking at Paulie's penis ring.
Oh, my God. Didn't she? They made a reference to that at dinner one night, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That was like the first episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, one of the first, yeah.
Yeah. There's so much happens. If you watch that first episode they did in season 1, was like a double shot. So much happens. Like, you think it happened throughout the season, and it's all in that episode. It's fucking insane how much happened in that first episode.
I wonder if they just jammed it in because they didn't know how long the season was going to be.
Possible, yeah. And I think it was just like, I mean, I could see why people go hooked. Like, I had never even heard of it. And I remember being in Florida on vacation with my wife and her cousin and her husband, her cousin's husband. And we were just like laying in the condo, pre-kids, so whatever, drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just like, this came on. We're like, what the fuck is this? Holy shit. And I think it was maybe like, I'd have to see because I remember when the vacation was. Let me see. When was episode 1? December 3rd, 2009 was episode 1. So we went away. So it had to be. Yeah. I probably caught a replay of episode 1 and was like hooked immediately. Like we were watching it and I'm like, yep, I am in on this, whatever it is.
Well, that's funny because the first episode I thought it was trash. And I said, who would watch this? But then I think I picked it up again, maybe on a weekend where there was some kind of rerun, and I thought, oh, you know what? This is more compelling than I gave it credit for. Oh, it's so good. And I miss I don't check MTV enough. I'll say there's more options these days than there were 9 years ago. But I remember like the marathons would be my favorite thing. Like and this is I guess maybe pre-kid too. So whatever, you could wake up in the morning and just leave it on. And I remember like specific stuff like taking down the Christmas tree and just watching the Jersey Shore marathon or like going to a party and they'd have it on during the party, go home and watch more of it as they passed out. Like stuff like that, like where they would have shown the whole season in a row on MTV. Or when Netflix had it, I don't know if it's still on Netflix or not, but I throw it on Netflix and just let it play. I think it's on Hulu.
Oh, it was like
I do that now. Yeah, I'll do that. Background noise.
Oh, such a good background noise.
I went through all the seasons again.
It's so good.
It is fun. It's like you said, it's a historical archive. So like you get to see her meet Gianni for the first time. Snooki.
There's so many little things, and that's why I really liked that Thanksgiving episode. Like if anyone was an old fan or hasn't watched, like that one was a good episode. Like they brought everyone in, Danny and everyone all showed up. Yeah, they showed some cool, never seen before footage, and it was just a really, really cool episode. I really, really enjoyed that way more than I expected it to be. I almost skipped it, but
yeah, I found it on my app and I started watching it again, and there was a lot. Yeah, there was a lot that I had forgotten.
Well, Leeanne, it was a good trip down memory lane. We said we were going to go 15-20, and here we are 42, as I expected us to be. Time flies. But, of course.
It's a good show, man.
Oh, I love it. And we'll talk more, of course, if they bring it back, which they fucking better. Yes. Anything you want to plug or tell us where to find you while you're here?
Let's see. We're doing a lot of just focusing on what's good and what's delicious in the Hartford area. I'm trying to think of the best way to.
Oh, you got your Twitter. Right? Talk about that.
Twitter. My Twitter is LGriffinCT, LGRIFFINCT. That's my Instagram as well. I have a pet rabbit who's adorable.
He's everywhere on social media.
And he's everywhere. I'm petting him right now. So he's cute. And so that's, Instagram. I'm more on Instagram than Twitter these days. So that's I post kind of what restaurants we've been at. We're doing a lot of brewery coverage. Connecticut's beer scene is picking up. Quite a bit, so we try to do that. We're just kind of seeing what's new and exciting and what's trending, and a lot of event listings and things like that. So, if you have any interest in Greater Hartford or beyond,
even not. I mean, I enjoy seeing the stuff, and not. I mean, I'm kind of tangentially located, but I don't go there to eat, so it is cool. Even I enjoy the follow, so I recommend anyone who's just kind of into food coverage in general. Cool. Or if you just want to be jealous of Leeanne and watch her eat food for a living.
It is it's a fun job. I can't lie. It's work, but we do have the best jobs in the building.
Oh, easy.
And I will admit that.
You don't have to cover the president, so that's easy.
No, I don't. I don't have to cover,
or shitty you
crazy spot news. I did all that when I was back in news. So
true.
This is the fun job. So.
All right, LG. Thanks as always. I had a great time talking.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we don't get to talk enough. But
it's fun.
We've been friends almost 20 years now, probably, right?
Oh, stop.
So old.
Yes.
You're so old.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, with this fall will be my 20 years anniversary of my freshman year.
Yeah, I didn't go to my reunion because all my friends were either a year older or a year younger. Like,
at Assumption?
Yeah, it was either your class or
that's right.
The class above me. I was friends with a ton of people. Like my class, I wasn't friends with a ton of people. So I do my own reunions, like we hang out at Charlie's house and stuff. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see friends, my friends from around here, Connecticut, Western Mass. I'll see them, but for the most part, Facebook is good about keeping people in touch.
Yeah, no, it's been good for a lot of stuff outside of politics. So. Right. All right, that's Leeanne Griffin. Follow her on social media. She's wonderful. And me and Scott will wrap things up in just a second.
Thank you.
Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. I put it down from the whip to my diamonds. I'm in black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Black stripe, yellow paint.
Well, Scott, I hope you enjoyed when you go back and listen to that conversation with Leeanne Griffin. Like she was in episode 6. Way back when we talked about, of course, she's a food reviewer, blogger at the time, now part of the newspaper. So we talked about that with her at the time in Jersey Shore and many other things. She's been, of course, on a handful of times throughout the years.
Right.
It's kind of our go-to for these anniversary episodes.
Yes.
We just don't talk to her otherwise, and it's always fun to have her on. She's been such a long-time friend of the show. And, of course, I did get to mention to her that we ate Frank Pepe's pizza.
That's
tonight.
right. Now, there's something that happened. In 8 years, I never would have expected a Pepe's to be in another state other than Connecticut, but now there's one in Fall River, and there's one in Warwick now, and we had it tonight, and it was very good. Yeah. Who would have thought that in 8 years too? Think about some of like the things within our lives, besides the fact you have children now, is that we wouldn't be eating at Smoky Bones anymore because that was like our haunt. Right. And then now, of course, we have our good friend, our good friends at Boneheads, who of course also have a place in Fall River. But no, Leanne's awesome, and that was very good. It was excellent, and we hope to have her back on again. I mean, look, however, there's one thing she didn't get, though, that someone else did get. So if you went over to rank the greatest Place to Be Nation, Place to Be podcast guests of all time, we've had plenty of great ones, Christopher Daniels, etc. Leeanne Griffin never got death threats.
No.
So there truly is only
Not
one
yet.
Matt Rotella.
No,
so
not yet.
Yeah.
All right, so we had teased it earlier, and we had mentioned, of course, on the message board, we have the Year That Was 1996 project, which is going to be ongoing, and that's kind of a long-term stretch project. There's a lot of matches to watch. People are going to come and go and discover that. But we are going to do another list project. Of course, the last 2 years, we've done 2 top 100 list projects. And 2 years ago, 2017, we did the greatest WWE wrestler of all time, won by Randy Savage. And then this past year, as the results continue to roll out now, we're doing the greatest WWE tag team ever. So for this year, and we'll have all of the social media forums open for discussion and the nomination process beginning. We'll have more details coming. But in 2019, we're going to do the greatest WWE televised / pay-per-view match of all time. Yep. So, we'll open the nomination process. We'll do another list where you have to submit the top 100. But the match had to have aired on some form on TV, pay-per-view, fucking online or whatever. I guess
right, exactly.
So we'll set up the parameters. They're not officially detailed yet. We'll come up with all that. But that is going to be the next project. So start to think. Of course, there'll be the big ones, at the top. But it'll be interesting to see how this falls. I think it'll be fun. We'll get away kind of from individual bodies and get into now, matches.
Right. Yep.
Instead. So keep an eye on all our social media platforms, the board, Facebook and Twitter for details on that. I'm sure we'll probably have more next week when we're back here. So speaking of next week, we'll be back with our January 89
January
MSG.
23rd, 1989 MSG House Show.
We have a debuting guest.
Yes, we do.
He is a host of his own show, so we're looking forward to having him. He's very excited.
Yes, very.
I'm sure the shit takes will be flying in. We'll be looking forward to that.
Yep.
All right, so what else do you got going on this week?
This week, we will have our newest episode of Main Event. We will have a good friend of mine and yours, JR. Brandon Howard will be joining us. And we will talk about the first quarter and how the Rumble looked for them, how the network, which actually is now, I guess, all-time high in subscriptions now, and how confident they are going into Mania, and maybe how they feel about the AAF, which, of course, debuted this their first week of football this past week, and apparently good crowds. And then we will have the next installment of our classic TNA pay-per-view recap, which we wouldn't be able to do if Global didn't have an app. As lousy as they are as a company, they have an app just like the WWE Network. It's kind of wonky. They don't have, it's not even ML BAM that WWE does anymore. They have a new company. But so check that out this week. Main Event, brand new, and Brandon Howard will be our big guest.
All right, very good. I believe there'll be a new Wrestling Warzone this week. We'll be looking at the Go Home.
Guys are on a roll.
Yeah, it's been nice after the 6 weeks off. We'll be looking at the Go Home for In Your House 5 and then the corresponding Nitro. So Chad and I should be here with that. All kinds of other stuff, of course, at the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed as well. Guessing we'll have a Noah's Bard again sometime soon. Aaron's away for work at the moment. But, of course, over the weekend we did drop the newest from the Vaults, where the big boys play, Great American Bash 87 Part 1. That's
Excellent.
with Chad and Parv. And then, other than that, just, of course, check out You Don't Know Billy Jack. That is a new show with our buddy Drew, as he introduces his friend. It's kind of a sister show to Jeff Learns Wrestling along the same lines.
Yep.
And also we had the debut of Talkin' WCW as they looked at Arn Anderson. Episode 2 should be coming out, I think, over the next week as well.
Next week,
with, Jenny, Tim, and Greg. So check all that out. Check out the pop feed as well. Plenty to listen to across the Place to Be Nation family. So that's it. Like I said, it'll be a quick show tonight. We just want to thank you all for all of your support. I think we named everyone at 500, so we're not going to do that again.
Exactly.
But thank you, as always, it's been a great 8 years. We're just going to keep trucking on, Scott. So
yes, we are.
Of course, as always, thanks for the partnership and the stewardship.
Absolutely.
And the 30% energy every week.
Well, I'm the one with the cold. There's no bloody noses or coughing attacks like in the past.
You're
so
hanging in. In your old age, you're hanging in.
Yep.
So. All right. Thank you for everyone for listening again and for the support. And hopefully it'll continue on. So for Scott, I'm Justin. We're out. We'll talk to you next week. Everyone, take care.
So are we playing Wiz Khalifa?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Black and yellow? Black and yellow. We did 8 times in the first 10 episodes.
Said I'll always be a friend, choking up and I'm sticking out to the end. Now that it's raining more than ever, know that we still have each other. You can stand under my umbrella. You can stand under my umbrella. Oh, under my umbrella. Into my arms, it's okay, don't be alarmed, come in me. There's no distance in me between our love, so go on and let the rain fall. I'll be all you need and more. Told you I'd always be here forever. Said I'll always be a friend. Took it off and I slipped out to the end. Now that it's raining more than ever, know that we still have each other. You can stand under my umbrella. You can stand under my umbrella.
Hey folks, Scott Bradley here. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video, especially since I kind of made a mess in my living room making it. Anyway, I want to give you guys a couple updates. First and foremost, Postmodern Jukebox will be on tour all over the US this fall and all over Europe in early 2016. I've created a website to get tickets worldwide. It's at pmjlive.com. Also on that website, our brand new general store, where you can get t-shirts. Oh, came out of nowhere. Songbooks, CDs, and for all you hipsters, vinyl. And sometimes I use a PMJ mugs when I feel like washing dishes too. Last but not least, congrats to Holly Campbell-Smith, the winner of the very first PMJ Search competition. I had so much fun watching all these entries. Check the hashtag PMJ Search to learn more about this. And it's proven to me once and for all that Postmodern Jukebox is now worldwide. It's been an amazing year. I've got you guys to thank, and we've got big things in the works. I'll see you next Thursday.